The Strait of Malacca is one of the most important maritime trade routes in the world. For Iran, it's been a critical artery, an essential corridor for transporting oil to its biggest energy customer, China. But this route has become increasingly difficult to rely on. Iran is currently under 180 separate sanctions targeting its energy sector. These restrictions limit its trading options and introduce immense risks when trying to move oil from Iranian ports to Chinese refineries. And as if that wasn't enough, the Strait of Malacca itself is becoming a growing liability. The once straightforward path through the sea is now fraught with surveillance, enforcement, piracy risks, and bottlenecks. For Iran, it's no longer a question of efficiency. It's about survival in an increasingly hostile trade environment. But Iran has found an alternative, an overland route to China. One that crosses deserts, mountains, and multiple borders, but crucially, avoids international waters and much of the global scrutiny. How does it work? Let's break it down. Despite the pressure of energy sanctions, Iranian oil still flows into China. How? Through a combination of secrecy, deception, and strategic loopholes. One of the more common methods involves ships simply disappearing, at least on paper. A vessel loaded with Iranian oil might leave port and head towards Southeast Asia. Somewhere off the coast of Malaysia, it vanishes from tracking systems. Later, it reappears empty. That's because it turned off its AIS or automatic identification system, a maneuver that allows the ship to drop off radar, execute a ship-to-ship transfer at sea, and pass the oil to another vessel, often one not under sanctions. This second ship may then deliver the oil to China, where it enters as Omani or Barbadian oil, or is simply labeled as fuel oil with no listed origin. On paper, the transaction looks clean. In reality, it's a game of smoke and mirrors designed to sidestep sanctions. Another player in this system is the teapot refinery, not the ceramic kind, but small, independent refineries in China that operate with minimal oversight. These facilities are often willing to purchase Iranian oil at steep discounts, turning a blind eye to international sanctions in exchange for cheap fuel. But all of this comes at a cost. According to various estimates, Iran loses up to 20% of the value of each oil shipment just trying to get it to its destination. That amounts to billions in lost revenue, money the country can ill afford to waste. The geography doesn't help either. The Strait of Malacca, the narrow but heavily trafficked channel between the Malay Peninsula and the Indonesian island of Sumatra, is 559 miles long and between 40 and 155 miles wide. It connects the Indian Ocean to the South China Sea and serves as the shortest maritime route between Asia and Europe. Around 90,000 ships pass through it every year, making it one of the busiest and most scrutinized waterways in the world. For Iran, this means every tanker that enters the strait is under a microscope. Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore, the key coastal states, cooperate with Western naval powers, especially those enforcing the sanctions. A suspicious vessel can be detained, its cargo seized, and its owner penalized. And the danger isn't just legal. The high traffic volume and lack of security escorts make cargo ships ideal targets for pirates and armed criminal groups. In 2005, the Strait of Malacca was even declared a high-risk area due to repeated attacks on vessels. While security has since improved, that's not necessarily good news for Iran. Tighter patrols and stronger regional cooperation mean increased scrutiny. Iranian tankers, often old and poorly maintained, sometimes even sail with their navigation systems disabled. This makes them vulnerable not only to accidents, but also to exposure. If a tanker runs aground or breaks down, its cargo, origin, and route become instantly visible to the global community. All this has led Iran to pursue something more reliable: overland trade. In May 2025, a major milestone was reached. A train from Xi'an in eastern China arrived at a dry port near Tehran, Iran. Among its cargo were solar panels, symbolic perhaps of Iran's efforts to diversify its energy mix, but more importantly, it confirmed that the land route between the two countries is active and working. Unlike the sea, the land doesn't demand stealth. This 6,200-mile route bypasses the Strait of Malacca altogether, and with it, the headaches of maritime sanctions evasion. But this isn't a single railroad built by one country. It's a patchwork of coordinated infrastructure projects linking China's eastern industrial hubs to western China, then through Central Asia and into Iran. One of the biggest engineering hurdles is the Taklamakan Desert in western China, one of the harshest deserts on Earth. Yet the Chinese rail network stretches all the way to the country's western edge, where it meets Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan has long been recognized by China as a strategic trade partner. Since the 1990s, rail connections have existed between the two, beginning with the Dostik-Alashanku crossing. In 2012, a second crossing was added at Korgos, dramatically improving efficiency. On the Iranian side, the country has maintained rail ties with Turkmenistan for decades. And Turkmenistan, in turn, connects to Kazakhstan. This created the theoretical framework for an Iran, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, China trade route. But early on, this wasn't very practical. Cargo had to be transferred between incompatible rail systems, causing delays that made the route unattractive. That changed on December 3, 2014. On that day, a direct railway connecting China, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Iran was officially inaugurated. The new line runs from China's eastern coast through Central Asia and ends in the Iranian city of Gorgan. Later, Uzbekistan also joined the network, increasing the flexibility of routing options. New infrastructure has been built to streamline cargo flow, eliminating many of the bottlenecks that once plagued the route. The same rail system used to deliver those solar panels to Iran in 2025 could soon be transporting oil, machinery, and more. For Iran, this overland corridor offers freedom from sanctions enforcement. None of the countries along the railway enforce Western sanctions, which means Iran no longer has to rely on dangerous and expensive tactics to move its oil. It's also faster. That 6,200-mile train journey took just 2 weeks, half the time needed for an oil tanker to navigate from Iran to China through the Strait of Malacca. And that's assuming the tanker isn't delayed or intercepted. For China, the route offers reduced transportation costs and peace of mind. More importantly, it fits into China's grander vision, the Belt and Road Initiative. This massive geopolitical project aims to recreate the ancient Silk Road through a mix of land and sea routes connecting Asia, Africa, and Europe. The railway that runs through Iran connects to Turkey and then into Europe. This gives China a direct land route to European markets while bypassing maritime choke points and unstable regions. It also acts as a backup in case sea routes are compromised. Trade between China and Iran is thriving. In 2023, their bilateral trade exceeded $14.6 billion. This isn't theoretical potential, it's an active, growing relationship fueled by new infrastructure and shared interests. For Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, the railway is a windfall. They earn revenue from transit fees, build jobs around logistics hubs, and increase their geopolitical relevance. Kazakhstan especially is benefiting. Container shipments from China to Iran via Kazakhstan more than doubled in early 2025. And it's not just acting as a bridge. Kazakhstan is also becoming a vital trade partner for both countries. Its barley is in high demand in Iran, and the country has even begun cultivating it specifically for export. Iran is also eyeing Kazakh rail equipment and metallurgical products to support its infrastructure expansion. China views Kazakhstan as its most important Central Asian partner. In 2024, their trade reached $43.8 billion, and much of that passed through or alongside routes that eventually lead to Iran. There's also the Trans-Caspian International Transport Route, or TITR. This hybrid land-sea corridor is another belt and road pathway that offers even more flexibility. Starting in eastern China, cargo is transported by rail to Kazakhstan's ports of Aktau, or Kurik. From there, it crosses the Caspian Sea to Azerbaijan, continues by train through Georgia to Black Sea ports like Poti or Batumi, and then moves into Europe. This alternative avoids both Russian territory and the long sea journey around India. And while Iran isn't directly on this route, it's still benefiting. In 2018, a test shipment from China arrived in Kazakhstan and was forwarded across the Caspian Sea to the Iranian port of Anzali. Iran was quickly incorporated into the China-Kazakhstan-Iran multimodal corridor. Kazakhstan is heavily investing in this infrastructure. At Aktau, dredging projects are deepening the port by 5 to 6 feet to accommodate larger vessels. Kurik has already undergone similar upgrades. By the end of 2025, a major container hub at Aktau will be completed, capable of handling 240,000 TEUs annually. While TITR isn't ideal for transporting crude oil just yet, due to multiple loading and unloading stages and the need for specialized facilities, Kazakhstan is working to restore oil terminals that could one day make this a viable option. In the end, Iran's black gold may not have to flow through the Strait of Malacca much longer. The world is shifting, and with it, so are the routes that power it. Think the Arctic is just a frozen wasteland. Think again. Northern Russia, long known for its icy extremes, is now at the center of one of the world's most ambitious infrastructure expansions. Russia and China have teamed up to transform the Arctic into a major trade corridor through the development of the Northern Sea Route, or NSR, and they're not holding back. Massive dredging operations are underway, pulling millions of tons of soil from the seafloor. A major terminal is under construction that will one day handle 100 million tons of oil, one of the world's most vital resources. This isn't some small-scale effort. It's part of a $100 billion megaproject that includes everything from power stations to newly built villages, all designed to support this Arctic trade route. Connectivity isn't a problem either. Russia is laying down thousands of miles of fiber-optic cable across the tundra. In short, the Arctic may be cold, but it's heating up fast, economically and geopolitically. But this surge in activity isn't going unnoticed. The United States and Canada aren't exactly celebrating this shift in the global trade landscape. And for good reason. The NSR could challenge one of the world's most important trade passages, the Suez Canal. Let's zoom out for context. The Northern Sea Route isn't new. It's been in use since the 1930s. But until recently, it played only a minor role in international shipping. In 2022, just over 34 million tons of cargo passed through the NSR. In 2023, that figure crept up to 36.2 million tons, a record, yes, but still tiny compared to its rival. That same year, the Suez Canal moved roughly 1.5 billion tons of cargo, even while facing serious disruptions. The disparity is staggering. So, what's holding the NSR back? Ice. Lots of it. Despite recent warming trends, the Arctic remains frozen for much of the year. In many stretches, the NSR is navigable for only about 2 months annually without the help of icebreakers. The Suez Canal, by contrast, is ice-free year-round. Russia, however, has a solution: its fleet of powerful icebreakers. As of early 2025, Russia operated 34 diesel-electric icebreakers and 8 nuclear ones, more than any other nation. These icebreakers regularly guide cargo ships along the Arctic's treacherous waters. In 2023 alone, Russia's nuclear fleet completed more than 730 escort missions. One notable operation involved the rescue of a bulk carrier named Gingo, which had capsized while carrying over 160,000 tons of iron ore. It took 13 days, but the mission succeeded, proving the fleet's crucial role. Still, even with this support, the NSR can't yet match the cargo volumes of the Suez Canal. The infrastructure and natural limitations are just too great for now. But that may be changing. Climate change is shrinking the Arctic ice cap, opening up longer windows for navigation. Researchers say this trend could eventually reduce the need for constant icebreaker assistance, lowering operational costs and making the route more attractive. And here's the kicker: the NSR is significantly shorter for certain routes. Take Tokyo to Hamburg, for example. The NSR cuts that trip to about 8,000 miles compared to 12,400 miles through the Suez Canal. That's a big deal. Meanwhile, trouble is brewing for the Suez Canal. The Red Sea region, which it feeds into, has become increasingly dangerous. Pirate attacks, missile strikes, and political unrest have all disrupted shipping. In 2024, just over 13,000 vessels passed through the canal, a 50% drop from the previous year's 26,000. That kind of uncertainty is pushing companies to consider alternatives, and the NSR is looking more viable by the day. Let's dive into one key hub of the NSR, the Bay of Ob, home to the Sabeta port. It's central to the Yamal LNG project, a joint venture between Russia and Chinese investors. Liquefied natural gas produced here is shipped directly via the NSR to international markets. By 2019, Sabeta was already moving nearly 20 million tons of cargo annually. But Russia had bigger plans. The largest dredging effort in Russian history was launched to deepen and expand the Bay of Ob's sea channel. In 2020, a multinational fleet of dredgers and over 1,000 workers removed more than 1.1 billion cubic feet of soil from the seabed in just 79 days. The aim? To make the channel accessible for Yamal-Max-class LNG tankers, giants that measure nearly 1,000 feet long and carry up to 80,000 tons of cargo. By 2030, project leaders expect the channel to accommodate up to 9 such vessels per day, drastically increasing throughput. Now head east to Dixon, Russia's northernmost settlement. Just 25 miles away, a massive oil terminal is rising, Bukta Sever. Construction began in 2021 with the delivery of 20,000 tons of cargo and materials by ice-class ships. Phase 1 included docks, storage areas, workshops, and coastal reinforcements. As of early 2025, work is well into its next phase, which includes 2 oil loading piers and the backbone infrastructure of the Sever terminal. Once completed, it will feature 102 oil storage tanks and an annual capacity of 100 million tons. That would make it Russia's largest oil terminal, right in the Arctic. Feeding this giant facility is another huge project, Vostok Oil. With a $100 billion price tag, it's developing Arctic oil fields that will feed directly into Sever. A 248-mile pipeline is planned to move the oil, supported by 13 new power plants and over 4,300 miles of transmission lines. Plans also call for 15 new towns and 2 airstrips to support the operations. Will all of it be built? That remains to be seen. But even if only the core infrastructure is completed, including the port and pipeline, it will mark a massive leap forward for the NSR. Then there's the Polar Express, a 7,800-mile-long underwater fiber optic cable stretching from Murmansk to Vladivostok. Russia is already producing the necessary cable at a new facility in Murmansk. The goal is clear, to ensure that every inch of this Arctic corridor is connected and operational. International players are taking note. The United Arab Emirates, through its global port operator DP World, signed a 2021 deal with Russia's Rosatom to co-develop the NSR. Their efforts include modernizing the port of Vladivostok and enhancing Murmansk, both key entry and exit points along the route. China, meanwhile, is deeply involved. It launched the Polar Silk Road in 2017, the Arctic branch of its Belt and Road Initiative. Through this, China has poured money into Arctic ports like Sabeta, Arkhangelsk, and others. In Arkhangelsk, it's backing a new terminal for large vessels, along with a 500-mile railway linking the port to inland Russia, further integrating the NSR with China's global trade network. All these projects are pushing toward an ambitious goal: 220 million tons of cargo annually along the NSR by 2035. That's over 6 times the 2023 total of 36 million tons. Is it achievable? Maybe, but it'll require everything to go right. Reduced ice, lower costs, better infrastructure. All of that is working in Russia's favor. A typical journey from China to Europe via the NSR could take just 19 days, compared to 48 days through the southern route. Plus, there are no pirates in the Arctic and no missile strikes to worry about. Still, the competition isn't sitting idle. The US and Canada have access to their own Arctic path, the Northwest Passage. But they're far behind in ice-breaking capabilities. The US hasn't designed a new heavy icebreaker since the 1970s. Its only operational one, the aging Polar Star, is nearly 50 years old. A new vessel is under development, but the project is years behind schedule and 60% over budget. Canada is faring slightly better, with 9 icebreakers in service and 2 heavy ones under construction. But neither country currently has the capacity to challenge Russia's Arctic dominance. This imbalance is raising alarms in Washington. China's Arctic ambitions are also on the radar. It operates research stations in Norway and Iceland and has made moves to gain influence in Greenland, offers that were ultimately blocked with help from Denmark. So where is all this heading? The NSR is no longer just a Russian fantasy. It's shaping up to be a genuine alternative to traditional trade routes and possibly a serious rival to the Suez Canal. But its future depends not just on engineering and logistics, but also on geopolitics. And in the Arctic, as in the rest of the world, politics can shift as fast as the ice.